How's it going, everybody? Hope you're all having a great evening. Welcome back to another stream. We are doing our preview show against Ipswich Town on Saturday, the 1st of November, actually. So first game of the at home of the month. 3 o'clock kickoff, so no afternoon kickoff at the MATCHDAY Loftus Road Stadium. Referee on the day is going to be Samuel Allison. Don't know who that is, to be honest. Don't think we've had him before. But Saturday is going to be a very difficult game, I would say. A very relegated Ipswich, a very different team slightly to the Premiership Ipswich that we watched in the Premier League last season. Obviously, players have left Ipswich Town, some very talented players that we would be worried about in this game if obviously they were still at the club. But they still have very much quality players in the club, such as Hurst, Smodics, Furlong, O'Shea, Kipri, Davis, and the one man I'm a bit worried about is obviously Fulgene Biddance. Very talented winger, attacking midfielder, whatever you want to call him, what position, but he's very dangerous. He was very dangerous for Hull. He was, and he's very dangerous in the Championship. He is. So yeah, one player that we got to watch out for on the day. But McKenna's side obviously have not had a great start to the season, in my opinion, for what they achieved before. So if we go to their the table first, so they're sitting 12th at the moment with only 4 wins, 4 draws and 3 losses, plus 4 goal difference, 16 points, and their last win was obviously over the weekend, just gone, against West Brom 1-0, where they beat them at home. And then they lost to Charlton at home 3-0. I think that was on a Tuesday night, possibly, or Wednesday night. And then they lost to Middlesbrough 2-1 at away. They did beat Norwich City 3-1 at their ground and drew away to Bristol City. Now, my thoughts on this game, like I said, it's going to be a very difficult game. They have too many, they're like us, they have too many good attackers. They do in the club. Now we have the advantage of obviously at home. We do, where the crowd will get obviously behind the squad and push for the result as it should be. Now, I think the main thing is, sorry about it, people. The main thing is we make sure we put on the right squad for this game, just because of where. We don't know how they're going to play for what every game they've played at the moment. So if we have a look, so obviously, let's say obviously they beat West Brom 1-0. They did. Clark scored. Now, possession wise, we know McKenna likes to try and take control of the game with passing, which can be a disadvantage to them as well, which we are very good at home when we press very high at the start of the game, in the game whatsoever. So that is something that we should think about definitely in the game when we get there, is looking at pressing high straight away and putting all pressure on them. Momentum wise, they're pretty good at momentum. They're pretty good at getting the ball up into the attacking opposition and going from there. If we look at obviously their away, the results that they've lost, they've always had better possession and big momentum. Charlton, it looks like it's just very counter-attacking set piece goals, as well as Middlesbrough, a bit of a 50-50 there. But Ipswich Town are a very possessive side team, where, you know, it's going to be difficult, you know, but at home, if the fans get behind them, we get behind them, you know, I reckon we could get a good result, you know. Majority of their goals and assists have come from either the forward Hurst or the winger Fulgene. Furlong's got an assist. Most of the defender, all the assists come from Furlong and Davis. Both have an assist. So yeah, it's a chance to prove ourselves at home, get a result, and push up the table. It is. The only thing, like I said, the only thing I worry about is possession from an Ipswich side. You know, they still have a strong squad. You know, substitution wise as well, they have a strong bench. So if we look at say for example their West Brom game that they won, on the bench they brought on Clark, you know, Akpom, Nunes, you know, they still got quite a good team on the bench as well. So they're probably likely chances are is going to stay the same 4-2-3-1 for them. And obviously with us, depending on what he chooses, because obviously we need to go in this straight away by attacking straight away, like we did against Millwall. But we've got to be careful with pushing too much high, because sometimes if we push high too much, it might cause an issue with counter attacks that Ipswich tend to be good at when it comes down to putting through balls over the top. So it's a typical McKenna side. The positive thing is McKenna's been obviously in talks with Celtic at the moment, becoming Celtic manager. So yeah, that is one thing that is a positive, because they're gonna have obviously a bit of disruption in the club possibly. So yeah, scoring early is one thing that we definitely need to do in this game for sure. Now going to us, wise, obviously we're not in the best form at the moment. We ain't. Obviously, you know, we lost to Derby. That Derby result, like I said, it was all Derby. Derby deserved it. I'm not gonna sit here and just bullshit about it, but we were the shittest. We were shit. That was it. End of. Let's just keep it there. You know, Derby were better than us on the day. The tactics and whatever it was, we were just really bad with what was put out on that field. Obviously, we beat Swansea 1-0 away and lost to Millwall 2-1. So, form-wise, you know, we got 2 wins, 1 draw, 2 losses, and 5. It's going to be one of these games where the next couple of, I shouldn't just say this game, I should say the next couple of games are going to be hard. So we've got Ipswich, Southampton, and Sheffield United, which are all difficult. It's just going to be difficult teams to beat, you know. 2 of them at home, 1 of them away. So if we can get majority draws out of it, then cool. But honestly, at home, we wherever the team is, we got to be aiming for the win whatsoever. You know, we have the quality now, with obviously in the team to do that. And injury wise, the only person that's injured at the moment reportedly is just Joe Walsh, and that's it. And obviously Lakesh, Chair, Poku, and Clarkson have all been involved in training this week, and it's been a full week of training, so no issues there. And it's going to be a hard test for Julian to pick the right team against Ipswich Town. It is. So it's one thing positive and one thing negative at the same time, because I don't know who he's going to choose against Ipswich. Now, the team that obviously I think he's going to choose, obviously Nardi in goal, Dunn on the right, and Bengay, Cook and Norrington at the back, Madsen and Varane. Now, Smith is probably going to be chosen because he's in form. Now, I've put Chair on behind Kone and Burrell on the left, with Kone up front. Now, like I said, for me, Kone needs to be a forward, an actual striker. He can't be behind because he's not scoring goals that way. You know, Burrell-wise, if you put him in the centre forward position, okay. Put him on the left, totally up to you. On the right, whatever. But my opinion is this: Chair needs to be with Kone. You know, a lot of people are saying that Chair, he's done, he's gone, you know, it's all finished with. He's listed still, for me, as an important player for QPR, as he's shown when he comes off the bench, you know. He's going to be able to score opportunities and create opportunities, you know. So, yeah, that's what I think, what we need to be ready for. The Cook scenario, I'm not sure, but if it's a good suggestion. Maybe Morrison is a better shout. depending on what he puts out, if it's a 4 or a 3. But Madsen and Varane, he might put his Hayden instead of Varane and going from there. But obviously, like I said, we got players fit now to be in certain positions. So yeah. Let's have a look at the comments. Westhoff Lofters, hey DB, good to see another stream. No worries, much appreciated. Foley, how you DB? I'm good, man. Hopefully you're all good. Hopefully you've enjoyed your week. One more day at work, and obviously weekend football's back on again. You know, obviously we've had the Carabao Cup this week, so not much to really say on that one. Sweaty Finley obviously says we're fucked. You know, we're gonna struggle against Ipswich fairly. Yeah, it's reasonable. Foley, yeah, they got the game in hand to against Blackburn, so yeah. Foley, you also say JS just said he has been watching all their games tactics wise. Yeah, listen, Julian Stefan can say all this stuff, but at the end of the day, he's meant to watch every game anyway. And look at the Derby game, you know, he didn't know that they were gonna go, you know, no one knew that they were gonna go in the second half low block, 5 at the back. You know, they haven't done that all season. You know, that game, they've not done that all season whatsoever. So that was a different Derby County we saw on that pitch at home. So yeah. Foley, I love a 2-1. Foley says we have to score early. Yep. Ryan says, hello mate, sorry I'm late. You don't have to apologize for being late, mate. Honestly, I appreciate everyone that joins. You don't have to worry about being late. As long as you enjoy the content, you listen, you can watch it later on as well. So yeah, not fussed about that. Foley says, yeah, even the highlights were all Derby. Pretty much. Like I said, there's no positives in that game. There's no positives whatsoever. You know, we played our game, whatever the plan was, and it didn't work. You know, Derby were the best team, and I've not seen Derby play like that all season. So they ran, and it's one of them things where it's a typical Derby thing at home, like when we played them at home. So yeah, it could be a good day or it could be a bad day. So yeah. Fo says I think we'll spank Sheffield United. Listen, I'm not going to say nothing on the Sheffield United scenario, because even though what they're going through right now is not great, you know, the form and everything like that, it can change in a matter of seconds. It can, especially with us, it can change against us. Have you seen that apparently Jamal Lewis has been training us? Apparently Jamal Lewis has been training with us, but I've asked a couple of people that I know in the club, and they haven't confirmed anything with me. They haven't really said anything about Jamal Lewis, so I can't sit here and say it's 100% true. But when a player does train with a club, it's usually the club's either interested, or 2, that they've invited the player to come and just train to keep fit. So yeah, he's probably just using our facilities just to keep fit, but I haven't heard anything whatsoever apart from something on Twitter. So yeah, if it's anything, I don't know if it is going to be a sign-in, because his wage is pretty big. I'm not going to lie, he is going to cost, and Jamal Lewis is a left back, so unless there is suggestion that Davis is going back to Sheffield United and Jamal Lewis is there for that, then I can probably say fair enough. But for what I've heard, nothing whatsoever. Foley, definitely not Kone and Frey. It can't be Kone and Frey. It doesn't work. Kone has to be on top on his own. Burrell has to either be a centre forward or a winger. And that's it. Pretty much ended there. West 12 Love says, what do you think about Michi Frey? I like Michi Frey, but I just feel like him and Kone have the same similarities. You know, one's more pacey than the other, but they have similarities in what you want to see in a striker, you know. And I think Frey and Kone can't work together. It's too much, you know. When Frey is in the middle, Kone disappears to the wing and it's not working. Kone can't be on the wing. Frey is one of them players that he can't do on his own, But if you cross that ball into him, he'll probably end up getting his head to it or something like that. You know, I can't sit here and say he's done much in the sense of shooting from a long range effort or anything like that. He's more of a poacher striker than anything. So yeah, I would say Kone is always going to be the best bet up front. But utilising Burrell, we need to figure out where to play him. Whether that's on left or behind Kone. But Kone has to be up front if we're putting him up front. You know, they've had a week's rest. They should be fit. They shouldn't be tired after that 3-game week. But Kone should have rested against Derby and come on the second half. That's what should have happened. You should have put Frey probably and done something from there. But yeah, I would say if we're going to go into this game, it's either Kone up front or Frey up front. You can't put them together. Simple as that. So yeah. Where was Jamal Lewis playing at last? I believe he was at Newcastle, if I'm not mistaken. He wasn't getting game time at Newcastle under Eddie Howe. But I don't know. So, I think he went on loan somewhere. I don't know if he went on loan to Norwich or somewhere like that, or abroad. I'm not too sure. I think he went abroad. But Jamal Lewis is a very good player, very quality, very talented. But the problem is he does suffer with injury problems. I'm not sure if it was... I'm trying to think if he was at Bournemouth or not. I'm not too sure. I think it was Lloyd Kelly at Bournemouth. I'm not too sure. But yeah, Lewis is talented, but I think he's only there just for training. I don't think he's there to be signed or anything like that. I just think he's there... If he is there, I think he's just there to train. That's it. So yeah. Reese says Chris Wilder was talking about Lawrence and Davis in a recent interview. Yeah, I haven't seen that interview, but Wilder has said in previous interviews that his thing is not to recall Davis whatsoever. You know, Davis, he said he's enjoying his time at QPR, he's in form, and he still doesn't know if he'll be used yet in that team. He said he's liking what he's seeing from Davis on the field, but he's still unsure on what to say. But he said the likely chances are he's not going to recall him whatsoever. You know, he's in a good place, you know, and he wants to keep him positive. So yeah. Foley says any January transfer rumors yet? It's too early to say. You know, we're only getting into November. You got to remember with QPR, I would post more stuff if I knew more about the transfers for QPR, but nothing comes through to QPR because QPR don't leak their stuff. The only time it gets leaked is when it's on the day or there's just a rumor, you know. So, but that's only happens when look, for example, look at Ronnie Edwards, right? No one knew about Ronnie Edwards coming on loan to QPR, and suddenly 1st of January, bam, signed him, you know. So that's the thing with QPR are a bit different. They can come out with rumors, but the majority of rumors are just all bullshit. So yeah, I would say right now, when we do go into January, I don't know what the you know the scenario is right now with January. But what we do need is we obviously need another number 8 in there, and we also need another centre back in there. I'm not too sure about wing backs because obviously we still got Adamson, Jimmy Dunn, all these other players. But the thing is with QPR, we don't announce anything. Now, the only way you're going to actually get anything, finding out anything, is through Twitter, through anyone, through Sky Sports, through fans. A lot of the time, if you ask people that are... so there's a couple of people that I know that work at Hanwell Town. They know a lot of people that work in QPR and scouts. So a lot of the time, if you know anyone from Hanwell Town, ask them because they will know 100% what's going down at QPR. But majority of the time, Christian Nuri does a good job to keeping everything hidden. So yeah, I would say right now we only need to fulfill 2 positions. Unless we send someone out alone or sell someone, then cool. But far from that, nothing, no rumours whatsoever. The only thing is the Jamal Lewis thing, which has come out. So yeah. I think Sweat Finney says, I think Chair needs to start behind Kone. 100%. I think Chair is ready, you know. Even though he's coming back from injury, Chair needs to play just because, you know, I don't think he is a creator, but he is that player that you need in your team that will go anywhere in that final third to either score a goal or be involved in a goal. So Chair to me is that player that's going to help you in that final third. You know, he's very attacking. So that's why I think he needs to be behind Kone. And Kone can't work with Frey. The Burrell and Kone does work, but only if Burrell is behind him. So yeah, I would say it has to be Chair, you know, unless you're going to put Dembele there, then okay, which is understandable, but yeah. Foley says, yeah, true about Edwards and QPR FC. It's like I said, QPR are very secretive. Like I said, the only time you're going to hear anything is through Twitter or anything like that. So yeah, and unless it's a mention, look, no one knew about Burrell. I didn't even know Burrell until they mentioned it on the day of the game. So yeah, after that game, well, we've signed someone. You know, I didn't know much about Burrell, to be honest. So yeah, it was a bit of a weird one. Ryan says, only thing I can see happen in January is maybe a centre-back. I don't know what's going to happen with Ronnie, because Ronnie clearly wants first-team football. That's all I can say right now. Ronnie wants first-team football. But even in our state, I don't know how he's going to get first-team football if we have... So if we have Mbenge, Morrison and Cook all working well, right? And they're three centre-backs that are aiming for first team. I don't know how Ronnie's going to get in there. If Jake Clark sort of stays fit and does well, that's 4. So I would say if Ronnie's going to come in, it's probably because we're going to sell someone. But if we do bring Ronnie, I'll be very surprised. It'd be very nice to have him back, but I just don't think right now it is going to be going into... I don't think we're going to waste money on something like that, you know? So yeah. Replacing Cook wise, Foley says, yeah, but I don't know what's going on with Cook. Is Cook got just 1-year contract and it ends the season, or is he signed a 2-year contract? I don't know. I know Cook, we won't sell Cook because he won't be worth much money. So yeah, he will just end up not signing for QPR. But he, at the moment, for what I can tell you right now, Cook is in that kind of scenario, Charlie Austin, where him and his family are so happy at QPR and comfortable. You know, he doesn't care about his wage, which I really respect, because I think it was last season or 2 seasons when he came to QPR, he was on a high wage. You know, and he's taken a wage reduction, I think, to be with QPR. So I respect that a lot from Cook, you know, and it tells you what kind of player he wants to be involved at QPR. So I have full respect for Cook on that one, if that is the case, though. Touch wood, that is the case. So yeah. Foley, Edwards would be nice in January, but as you have said, DB, he'll be very expensive. I'll be honest, I don't think he'll be expensive. I think he'll be cheap, but the problem is QPR are in a predicament where can we sign him? That's the question. You know, we tried to sign him in the summer. It didn't work, but the likely chances are we're trying to get him on loan in the summer, I reckon, and a buy option if we go to the Premier League, pretty much like the Koki Sato deal. Koki had a buy option clause, but we didn't get into the Premier League, so we couldn't buy him. So, yeah, it was one of them things where I think Ronnie they tried to do the same thing with Ronnie, but obviously I think it's kind of this thing where Will Still says, if you sell him, I'm gone. Pretty much something like that. You know, they need replacements, but Will Still's not doing nothing for Southampton, so I don't think he will have any trust in the January transfer window. So yeah, I don't think that's gonna work out. So yeah, so if any, yeah, someone who agrees. Ryan says Morrison and Ronnie worked last season. To be honest, I would say Ronnie Edwards worked well with a couple of defenders. You know, when Cook got injured, Ronnie and Fox did really well, but Fox is gone now. Ronnie and Fox did extremely well in those centre back positions, you know. But then when Cook came back with Fox, it kind of didn't work out. Now the positive thing with Ronnie could play anywhere on the right back, left back, centre back, and defensive midfield. So he's very versatile in the defensive abilities. He is, but I would never put him on the way Marty played him. It was really bad. So yeah. I think Ronnie works well with everyone. You know, as long even in Bengay, like Ronnie is that guy that can run out defense, and Morrison isn't. So that's why Mbenge is pretty much there, because Mbenge is good at running with the ball and dribbling with the ball, and that's why I think Ronnie right now might not be a good choice to QPR. They might look at, you know, we just brought on Tylon Smith, so you know, unless they bring in another youngster centre back that can be on the bench, then yeah, I'll be honest, I don't think we're going to go back in for Ronnie in January. It would be nice to, but I just don't think they're going to look at where we are and what we're doing, and you know, I just don't think it's going to happen. Yeah. Loan would work better, that's true. Yeah, like I said, the loan market is something that we have to utilize a lot. Like you said, we are right now, we're the Brighton of the Championship. You know, we're buying players that are for the future. You know, buying them cheap now or getting able to get into the club and working them into the first team to gain that profit. Obviously with Eze, and you know, I would say Ryan Mannings, but I don't know how much Ryan Mannings went for. You know, Les Ferdinand tried his best to do it, but it wasn't working because his philosophy was completely different to what Christian Nuri's was. His philosophy, which I'm not going to go into, but yeah, his philosophy was a lot different. So yeah. Sweaty Finny says we definitely need 4 at the back. Like I said, for me in football, right, with tactics, it works a lot better when it comes down to tactics wise against the team you play. Like for example, no one knew Derby County was going to go a low block, you know, very defensive, 5 at the back. Now in my opinion, the only way you're going to beat that is if, you know, if you put more players up front, or you allow them to attack and you do the counter attacking option. But that's when tactics come involved, where you got to change everything over. You know, Duncan still plays centre back, but I would say he's a ball runner, you know, as well. So if you do play 5 at the back, 3 at the back, whatever, you know, I think it all depends on what team you play and tactic wise. So 4 at the back is something that Julian is used to, but he has changed tactics before when he was at Rennes and Strasbourg. So yeah, you know, just to win a game, you know, he's a very classic manager that likes to utilize the typical 4-4-2 or the 4-2-3-1 or the 4-3-3, but the 4-3-3 wasn't working, so he changed it. So yeah, he's a very adaptive manager, which I like. So yeah, if he changes it in the future, then cool. You know, I'll understand it, but in the Premier League, we probably would. You know, it's one of them things. Brody says, I was at the Cardiff game last season. Edwards cleared at least 20 crosses. The thing with Ronnie is he's a very typical centre-back, you know, a very classic English centre-back, in my opinion, where he's very good at defending the box and he's very good in the air. You know, and that's 2 main priorities. For me as well, I think Morrison is kind of a similar player, but I think Morrison has less height than him. So sometimes when he gets out jumped by, say, a 6'5" striker from Watford, you know, it doesn't work well. So that's the only thing I like about Ronnie, is that he gets over players, even the tallest of players. So, you know, he's got good height and good jump, Ronnie has, compared to Morrison and the likes, players like that. And that's why Clark-Salt will be a better fit for us, or Jimmy Dunn marking taller players. So, yeah. Ryan says, do you think we will get anyone at all in January, or is it unlikely? At this moment in time, like I said, the only thing we need is a centre back, possibly a young centre back, and a centre mid, a number 8. Like, anyone in the chat, or even put in the comments if you feel like there's a weakness in our club somewhere. Put in the comments. I'd love to know. Because for me, we can't improve our forward line. Our forward line is full of talented players. Unless we're gonna sell someone and bring someone in, that's the only way I can see it. But for me, I would say we have too much good attacking talent. In midfield wise, we could utilize that a bit more. We have 4 players, two similar, but 4 midfielders that are talented at what they do and experience wise. The back 4, I would say, like I said, the only thing that we might want to bring in is another centre back. You know, we got Adamson. I don't know what's going on with Adamson. We have a right back with Jimmy Dunn keeping him out. We have Escudino on the left to cover Davis. But depending on what goes on in the future for us. But right now, the only thing I would say is a number 8. So yeah. Cody says, what is your prediction for Saturday? My prediction for Saturday is probably a 1-0 win to QPR. I would not expect us to do them like 5-0, 3-0, 2-1 or whatever. If we, my main thing is a clean sheet. But if we don't keep the clean sheet, then we're screwed. So yeah. I would say we can't let them in. They're going to take their time with the ball and they're going to use counterattacks a lot. You know, they're going to push us, but we need to put a high press straight away in that game constantly because they don't do well under pressure. So my prediction is 1-0 win to QPR. Frey says, Frey and Cook, I'd swap in the transfer window. It depends. I like Frey, but I would rather Salah come back. But, you know. I don't know what to say on that behalf, but we'll see what happens. We will. Sway Finney says we need to get better at defending counterattacks. I think we need to get defending better at not just counterattacks, at set pieces as well. You know, we're not great at it. So yeah. Our weakness is mainly defense, but mostly depth. That's why I think Jamal Lewis might actually happen, as we have no other senior left backs other than R&D. I think everyone knows Escudina is not for now. Escudina is in a couple of seasons. You know, he'll probably go out on loan. But the problem is with Escudina, it sounds like he does have a bit of a social media problem. So yeah, I would say we can't push him like out of the squad too much because he might want to leave. So yeah, gotta remember he is Brazilian. He's very talented. So yeah. I would expect him to be in the squad on the bench, not constantly, but most of the time this season. So yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what's going to happen with the left back scenario with Davis if he goes back. But maybe that's why they put in Jamal on training. But I believe it's just I think Jamal, if it was anything, it would have been announced already. You know. So yeah, I unless they announce it Saturday before the game, I don't know, but I would say Jamal Lewis right now is just training to get fit. That's it. Foley says Harvey Vale needs to start. The thing with Vale is that right now he's gonna play Smith, not Vale. Let's put Vale on the left instead of Sato or Burrell. But I think he should utilize him as a number 10 or number 8 because I think that might be better for the team at the moment to see what happens there. So yeah, but Vale does need to start. But right now I think he's more of a middle guy. I think he performs better in the middle than he does on the wings. So yeah. Right. Put your comments below what you think the score prediction is going to be for the game on Saturday against Ipswich. Any other comments, put it down there. It'd be much appreciated. But apart from that, we're going to end it there for tonight. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you want to, and we'll catch you for the watch along on Saturday at 2:45. We'll be on. So yeah, we'll catch you Saturday. Have a good evening, and yeah, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and we'll go from there. Cheers. Bye.